This for my cats trying to get that dough and prosper. Flip that snow like Jim Carrey and pasta.
No more jumping through hula hoops. My doggy asked me to send over some chicken and I flew the coop.
I endorsed the healthier way of living since then, though I smoked the occasional Winston.
Every verse be iller, cashing out like Percy Miller with the hootie hoos.
These cats' tales are jump selling and not compelling. The war stories is not even convincing.
Disappear like some kind of phantom genie. Can pop out in a drop top Lamborghini.
It's too easy. Show them that Droog isn't the one they want to do greasy.
Dmitry Kutsenko, also known as your Old Droog, born sometime in 1989. In sports, if a player doesn't have the skills to stand out on that level, chances are they either won't make it to a certain point or won't last very long if they do. In music, for some genres, it's the same thing. A singer like a Whitney Houston became famous and an all-time great because it's obvious from her first note she had everything it took to be a star. But in rap music, it's a lot different. Sometimes it works, but most times the most skillful rappers are penalized for having shared skill without the toppings that make them popular enough to blow up mainstream. Today's feature is one of those rap artists that draws you in deeper and deeper into his music as you listen and give what he has to say a chance. Your Old Droog to me is exactly what it means to be an MC that does what he does for his obvious love for hip-hop and rap music, influenced not just by the greats that came before him, but a burn within himself to rap, and that's what I like most about his music. It's timeless because it comes from a real place. Stories of his experiences that hit even harder when he spits a line you can actually relate to. Artists with the ability to convey a relatable feeling while also delivering it with a unique creativity I deem the best when it comes to being an MC, but unfortunately that opinion isn't shared by the masses. I can't tell you the level of disappointment I had learning that Drake didn't write most of his songs I liked from him, and just the other day it became known he didn't even write the song that made him famous in the first place. No disrespect to Drake and his fans, because I still believe there's a place in the music industry for an artist of that ilk that do some things really well outside writing a chart-topping song. But whenever I come across an artist like your Old Droog, it reminds me that there's still a place for true hip-hop participants that take pride in their own story being told from their own pen and their own life experiences, even if I can't relate to his Jewish and Ukrainian history. But as you all know, business is business, and music, especially hip-hop right now, is sold to the highest bidder, with most of the profits going to the music acts that present the best possibility of return on investment. Coming into the game in 2014, Droog was often compared to the hip-hop legend Nas, and I can see why due to their similar cadence and topics from time to time. Some even thinking Nas somehow had an alter ego he was releasing music through, only to learn Droog was in fact an actual person with his own interesting story to tell. Too bad, like mentioned, skill sometimes is the last thing you need to be popular in this era, and for that and the reasons we'll speak on, your Old Droog never got or gets his just due mainstream. What happened? Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth Music. Let's get it, man. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Your Old Droog is a rapper born in Ukraine of Jewish descent that moved to Brooklyn, New York at 4 years old, where he'd really be inspired by rappers like Prodigy, Big L, and MF Doom. The word Droog means friend in Ukraine, something his music also sounds like, reuniting with an old friend. He played around with rap for a while, at the time only battling in his school lunchrooms before in 2014 he released one of his first songs to the world through a self-titled EP, a song called Nutty Bars that received many mixed reactions online, but more confusion than anything. Many believed it was actually Nas releasing previously unreleased music under a different name, while others that knew it wasn't weren't all too pleased to hear a Nas knockoff. As time went on and Droog began to release more music, he carved his own lane and separated himself from the Nas comparisons, growing his own underground fan base. He released 9 albums since 2014, in 2019 3 in total, showing his work ethic and consistency, yet still it didn't amount to him blowing up mainstream. Here's why. Stunt number 1, Nothing Beats the Original. The thing about the way your Old Droog came into the game by way of sounding like another already loved and established artist is it gives you lots of initial fame like he'd get before he revealed his true identity at a time people still believed it was actually Nas behind the bars. Droog said himself that he initially let the rumors play out as a way to not have to pay for publicity when fans just thinking it was Nas was giving him the spins and energy behind his music he needed to at least be heard. His first show in 2014 was sold out, everyone wanting to see him actually perform the music and prove this wasn't some Nas scheme about to be exposed. Instead, Droog came out and killed it, leading to respect from other hip-hop artists and working with and supported by some he really looked up to like Royce da 5'9", Danny Brown, DJ Premier, Mac Homie, and MF Doom. But over time, the buzz subsided more and more, like uncapping a soda bottle too many times without finishing the drink. This happened, in my opinion, because once you come out sounding like someone else, or at least that's what the fans hear, you immediately place a ceiling on your music and a small window of opportunity to capitalize before they all just go back to the original. It's funny because to me, he doesn't sound that much like Nas at all, much more than he sounds like The Game, who also sounds like Nas much more than Droog does. Game was still able to have a solid career nevertheless before he self-sabotaged it by beefing with a guy like 50 Cent who played such an important role in Game's career early on and is just as petty so has time to make sure Game's shots are addressed. Droog, even though much more talented in my opinion, one thing that stunted his growth actually reminds me a lot of the rapper Designer, who came into the game sounding like Future had his own alter ego that blew up because of how insane the similarities to Future was, but faded over time because nothing can ever outlast the original, especially when the original is still very nice and very active. Stunt number 2, not making mainstream music. Another huge reason your Old Droog doesn't get his just due for being one of the best MCs in the game in my opinion is because he doesn't have a mainstream style, look, or attempts to make bubblegum dumbed down mainstream music. It's the same as the difference between rap and hip-hop. Hip-hop looks cool and is made to represent the culture and be sold, while rap comes with the responsibility of having skill over being industry presentable enough to do numbers on the charts or on streaming services. Drake, Kanye, Pharrell, Nelly, these are examples of hip-hop artists to me. Nas, Biggie, Tupac, Kendrick, KRS-One, MF Doom, Big L, Lupe, these are a small example that can go on and on of what I consider rap artists. Some artists like Eminem, Jay-Z actually have both sides equivalent, and that makes them even more unique, but make no mistake, there is a difference. A hip-hop artist may have a certain look that relates to the times and the feeling of a large enough community, therefore they can sell enough records and people confuse them for being the best quote rapper. Lil Uzi Vert is a perfect example. I wouldn't consider his music rap at all, but is it hip-hop? Is it influenced by him expressing himself through music as a black man? Does it represent a population of other black men and kids able to support it? Yes, and that's hip-hop. You can have the personality, the trendy sound, the trendy look, the trendy feel of the streets and become a much bigger artist than say a Your Old Droog who has none of those working for him, nor the desire it seems to go down that lane, and that also placed a ceiling on his music's reach, keeping him underground enough to gain respect, but not so much popularity. Stunt number 3, not much of a lane. Lastly, I think for an artist like Droog, there just isn't much of a relatable lane to his music for it to give him the credit he deserves in the form of becoming popular. The most buzz he ever had was when he first came out and people thought he was Nas. He's from the Ukraine, is Jewish, and has the look and personality of a regular Droog from down the street. His songs are usually minimalistic and more of a vibe than something to jump around to at a show. As far as being able to be sold, there isn't much of a lane in the music industry as far as popular music for him to stand out, and I think that's something Droog is just fine with, seeing as he released over 20 full-length projects in the last 10 years, and they're all cut from the same cloth of not dumbing down for mainstream success. He's about 35 now, depending, seeing as no one really knows his actual birth date, which adds to the mystique, but not to being very much relatable. Being able to sell to the masses is a huge element of becoming a popular mainstream artist. So if we're asking the question why he's not, this could be a very big reason. All in all, your Old Droog is still a really dope artist that the people understand and realize the politics he's facing when it comes to being a popular artist. He's a rapper's rapper who releases music for the heads that still care about the authenticity of being a rap artist, not all show with assistance behind the scenes. He's made rock-inspired albums, an album heavy on his Jewish heritage, and traditional East Coast albums that many can enjoy some piece of his greatness. With that said, for these reasons, he isn't mainstream, and that's fine. Salute, much respect, but for these reasons, his growth as far as being a mainstream artist was stunted. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth Music. I'm out.